Hello everyone, it's your Peacekeeper, coming at you with the next video in our How to Play series on the German destroyer line. This is the German torpedo boat G-101, aka G-101. The G-101 class was a class of 12, then 16 planned ships. The first 12 were actually not ordered by the Germans, they were ordered by the Argentine Navy. And the overall design and layout work was designed by the Germans, but the production of these ships was actually split between the French naval yards in Bretagne, the British naval yards in camo, and the two German shipyards, Germania Werft and Schischau Werk. Each one of the German ones would be split in two. So each one had two, and then there was 4 for the French and 4 for the English. Well, the Germans actually completed their ships in 1912, and they were delivered to the Argentine Navy, but due to the First Balkan War, the British didn't deliver on theirs. Instead, the British sold those ships to Greece, and the French ended up taking over their 4 and served in the French Navy during World War I. So, as a result of this, Argentina requested 4 more ships be built by the Germans, who apparently are the only ones able to deliver on their word that they were going to give them to them. And those ships, at the outbreak of World War I, were hijacked by the Germans and became the G-101 class. Now, of course, these ships are the ever-inspiring G-101, G-102, G-103, and G-104. And the 4 ships actually served during World War I, and they all participated in the Battle of Jutland, and 3 of the ships took part in the destruction of a convoy running between Norway and England in 1917 during World War I. These ships would be interned in Scapa Flow because they all survived the war, and as with the rest of the German High Seas Fleet, they attempted to scuttle all of these destroyers. 3 of them, G-101, G-103, and G-104, sank, but G-102 had to run aground during the attempt because they apparently didn't get off of the ship, and as a result, it would eventually be towed out and sunk as a target for aircraft by the U.S. Navy in 1921 after World War I. And there were a couple of slight design changes to these ships that made them just a little bit better for, seakeeping. If we look at the V-25 class, we can see here that the front bow torpedo tubes are in what a lot of navies would consider a very wet position. When these ships are underway, you have the bow wave that is coming up here, and that means that water is going to frequently be splashing over this front deck. So what they did is they moved the torpedo tubes back, and then they moved the bridge and superstructure forward, and this created much drier firing positions for the front 2 torpedo tubes. Now, it doesn't really impact it in its in-gameplay style a whole lot. These ships are still able to fire torpedoes basically straight ahead, and it's still a unique play style. And there are some downsides, however. This ship, being considerably larger than the V-25s, means that your detection range is worse, and the speed, I don't think the speed is nearly as good, and it really doesn't end up being. It's about 0.8 of a knot slower, and that's going to be with the speed flag on this. So if we go and we remove the speed flag, we're going to see that we go from 36 knots down to 33.5 knots. So at 33.5 knots, you're not as fast. You've got a larger turning circle radius, similar rudder shift time, basically the same exact guns, but our torpedoes only go 7 kilometers at 52 knots, and they at least reload very quickly, which is a trait that the Germans will carry on well into Tier 10, and that is at least an upside. However, you only get a half a kilometer of firing range. Now keep in mind, this is with camouflage on there, so many people that are at least starting off in the game won't even have access to add camouflage. And if we got to mount camouflage here and remove it, you can see that our detection range goes to, as soon as this goes away, 6.7 kilometers, and that leaves you with 300 meters of firing range with no camo on this ship at all. That can be very difficult for some people to get used to, but what I found is that at these tiers you can still exploit the newness of some of the players in the player base, and the battleships can be easily charged, and we'll show that in the battle video, so don't worry, you'll get to see a pretty good example of that in the battle video. Overall guns, I really am not a fan of the guns. It has the same exact problem that V-25 had. It seems like HE does, 200 damage every time a shell hits with a relatively low fire chance, which is 5.5%. And then to add insult to injury, AP seems to either outright overpen all the superstructure or shatter. There's no in between there. I've numerous times, and we'll get to see this as well, shot at broadside Phoenixes, and in previous battles, broadside Danae, and other broadside cruisers that are notorious for being easy to citadel, even with 4-inch guns, and can't make it through the belt armor. So the guns are a little unreliable. That means that the ship relies quite heavily on its torpedo mounts, which, as I already said earlier, can be very difficult to rely upon when you only have a 300 or 500 meter firing range where you can fire from stealth. So let's look at some of our stats here. 11,000 hit points, 13 millimeters of armor. Where? It's got to be on the gun mounts, because no. I don't know where this 13 millimeters of armor is actually hiding at, and quite honestly, it doesn't matter. But the whole ship is basically plated in beer cans. Oh wait, this is German, so we don't have canned beer. Anyway, moving on. The main battery consists of 4 105mm L45 gun mounts, 9-kilometer firing range, 4-second reload time, 18-second 180-degree turn time, 1200 HE shell damage, 5.5% fire chance, 2300 AP shell damage, and no differences in HE and AP shell velocity. Your torpedo tubes consist of 2 dual and 2 single torpedo tube mounts, 7 kilometers, 52 knot speed, 10,600 damage. They have a detection range of 1 kilometer, and add that with their 52 knot speed, and there's a reasonable amount of reaction time that ships have to turn and mitigate damage, but like I said, at these lower tiers, mastery of W, AS, and D hacks is not very good. Anti-aircraft defense is 2 single 7.92mm machine guns, and let's be honest here, worthless. Literally worthless. 3 DPS with a 1 kilometer firing range. Yikes. Moving on. Maneuverability, max speed 33.5 knots, turning circle radius 520 meters, rudder shift time of 2.9 seconds. Detection range by sea of 6.5 kilometers, detection range by air of 3.1 kilometers. In terms of the upgrade modules, I am running Main Armaments Mod 1 in this first slot for the 20% reduction in your main battery becoming incapacitated, and this also applies to your torpedo tubes. 50% increase in the hit point pool of your main battery and torpedo tubes, as well as a decrease in the time it takes to repair your main battery and torpedo tubes by 20%. The only other option here that I would consider is Magazine Mod 1 for the 70% reduction in the risk of your ship's magazine detonating. This would be good if you are out of detonation flags and really don't want to detonate, even though detonation chances are already really low. Basically, this this can act as an impromptu det flag. In the second slot, I am running Propulsion Systems Mod 1, which is a 20% reduction in the chance of your engine becoming incapacitated, as well as a 20% reduction in the time it takes to repair your engine. And what I've found is that this ship loses both its engine and rudder fairly easily, but of the two, I would much rather lose my rudder, because Last Stand, the captain's skill, which is a 2-pointer, allows me to still steer, and losing my engine, you just go too slow with Last Stand. I just find it to be a bigger detriment to lose my engine than my steering. Of course, if you prefer to lose your engine and not your steering, Steering Gears Mod 1 is another viable choice for the 20% reduction in the time it takes to repair your steering gears, as well as 20% reduction in the chance of your steering gears getting incapacitated. Basically the same thing as Propulsion Mod 1, except for your steering instead of your engines. Damage Control Systems Mod 1 really doesn't have a real good use in this on a destroyer. Simply put, if you're getting hit by torpedoes, you're most likely going to be dead or nearly dead, and if you start on fire, well, about the same thing. Basically, this ship has a fast enough reload on its damage control party that neither one of those things are a real big threat. Okay, so that's this in port. Let's go look at it in a battle video. Alright, so one of the downsides to Tier 3 is that you are constantly up-tiered to Tier 4. And Tier 3's max matchmaking range only goes between Tier 2 and Tier 4. And there are way more Tier 4 people than it seems there are Tier 2 people, and so you will end up constantly in Tier 3, Tier 4 fights, as we see here. Now, this would normally not be too much of a disadvantage, it's just that every destroyer at Tier 4 can quite effectively outgun you, especially the US destroyers, and, well, about the only thing you do better than them is torpedoes. In fact, I think Clemson is even stealthier. If it's not, it's only marginally less stealthy. 6.5 kilometers is a long range to be spotted in a destroyer, especially when you just got done with probably the stealthiest destroyer in the game without concealment expert on it, and most assuredly the best concealed destroyer in the game with concealment expert if you decided to put a dedicated, 10-point captain on there with concealment expert as your 4-point skill. So the map here is Solomon Islands, which is a very fun map for the low tiers, and usually has some pretty intense fighting around A and C. Sometimes you'll get some really intense fighting at B. Being as I don't want to go towards B, I'm going to head towards A. We have a fairly decent amount of ships that are going to follow us there, and the engagement there is going to be pretty intense, not going to lie. Now, unlike the Japanese destroyers, the ship can be a little bit more aggressive with pushing into caps to try and cap them. Like I said, HE and AP shell damage can be unreliable. That's not to say that you can't get good damage numbers from AP or HE. It seems to be kind of, well, hit or miss. No pun intended there. The other thing is the gun angles on this ship are worse than the V-25 is, which means you can't really charge nearly as aggressively as you would like. Okay, so checking, yeah, Dirtski, all those ships are, really not too worried about the Dirtski. I'm worried about his, 8 billion torpedoes, but I'm less worried. Oh, we're detected, and speaking of, there's the Dirtski. So, looking at the torpedoes here while we see, okay, so 1,000 damage. Oh, yeah, I turned just a little too much. Now I can't engage at all. Well, we're going to launch torpedoes. But he's definitely going to escape. Oop, there's his torpedoes. Good thing we managed to evade those. And we went ahead and we launched torpedoes at the Kaiser over there. Now we're going to hold off on popping our smoke. Some people would pop their smoke here, and not really all that necessary. Trying to get a fire started on. Oop, there's the Dirtski. Switch to the rear guns. If you're wondering how to switch from the forward camera angle to the rear camera angle on your guns, press the C key. One thing here that I should have probably anticipated was the fact that he launched torpedoes. At least we were going forward. Ooh, I really thought this battle was going to be over, but Dirtski's torpedoes don't do much, but our torpedoes do a fairly large amount, and we get a fire on top of it, smacking that Kaiser with all 4 torpedoes for a fairly large amount of damage. We're up to 34,000, which I think is well above the server average. We got 2 more torpedoes headed out toward, or 2 more sets of torpedoes headed out to that Wyoming, and we're just chilling over here. I mean, at this point, the Dirtski's greater than 4 kilometers away, which means his torpedo threat is non-existent, and I beached myself there. Mildly tactically, I might add. Okay, we're going to try and help and engage and take him out, but the gun angles on this ship are interesting. You don't have a whole lot in the way of gun angles to fire at forward. Oop, there's the Dertski's torpedoes. As you can see, they fell short. You don't have any gun angles to fire forward. You don't have any gun angles to fire toward the rear. Ooh, I really thought we were going to miss the Wyoming entirely and not get anything out of those, but Mr. Dertski decided that he was going to eat my torpedoes, and unfortunately for him, he was just out of hit points when it happened. So it's time for us to see if we can't try and get some torpedoes off on this Wyoming, but as you can see, he is turning. So find a better target, Mr. Nikolai maybe? Oop. Isakaze torps. Good thing I was paying attention. And he's apparently not terribly happy about the fact that I turned around on him, and well, you know, he probably could have launched the set and it would have been fine. It's not like this Nikolai turned because of me anyway. He was already turning to bring his guns to bear on the St. Louis, but it's all right. We'll pop our smoke here on top of his because his was about ready to run out. Was hoping that it would catch him in here, but unfortunately it doesn't. So we can see here we've got plenty of targets to shoot at. We're going to shoot at this Phoenix. And we're going to enjoy it. Wow, even the Clemson's throwing down. All right. Isakaze looks like he's going to get maybe he's going to get one. Isakaze's still alive. Oh, yep, got one. Okay, so now here's a perfect example. The ship is 5.5 kilometers out. Ooh, Clemson, avoid those. Yeah, whew. We're up to 41,000 damage with a sink ourselves. And that was that Dertski, but we're going to continue to engage. You can see here, 600 damage. Okay, switch into AP at 4K out on a ship that's notorious for having weak broadsides. Not able to see the damage numbers real well, but 1,200 damage. 1,300 damage. No Citadel hits here. Still averaging, we're doing 380. Last salvo, he's got 66 hit points. Yes, we managed to finish him off with those 66 hit points. Okay, so you can see here we've used kind of terrain to our advantage to try and, wow, those are some torpedoes. To try and get in here and effectively deal with some of these ships. We're just going to loop right back around. We're using this island as cover and concealment, but most importantly is that the smoke cloud that we've left is very conveniently placed. I guess that was actually the Clemson who left his torpedoes, or his smoke there. And you can see there, somebody shot at us. I don't know if that was the Friant or if that was somebody else, but it doesn't really matter. Looks like the Isakaze is going to smack him with some torpedoes. Yep, good. Okay, so Friant. Those torpedoes that I launched at that Kaiser, I think we're going to get lucky with them. That torpedo looks pretty good. If nothing else, those other torpedoes definitely look good. You can see there I was traversing my gun mounts, trying to get there, but oh, look at this. So the Friant must have sped up, and I was really wondering, like, I don't know if I'm going to get, if those are going to hit, but yep. Whew. Alright, so we're up to 3 kills now, 51,062 damage, and you can see that if you work with other teammates, the G-101 can be quite potent. You know, we managed to take out 3 ourselves. The Isakaze's managed to take out 1. I'm sure the Clemson managed to take out somebody before he ended up dying. But now we've got some tough choices. We really need to know where these guys are at before we can make any plans about how we're going to attack this. A Wyoming that's running away. The Isakaze is asking if we should just rush them or put smoke on the corner. Got to see where they're doing first. But anyway, we've got a bit of a situation here because we have a really long detection range, really short torpedo range, and, well, short torpedo range relative to our concealment. So trying to stay as far away from this Wyoming as possible, and not really a whole lot of opportunity here. But as you can see, the Nikolai and the Clemson, they're no longer around. In fact, I suspect they will be headed towards B. Okay, so there is the Nikolai there at B. So we're going to duck into this smoke real quick, and we're going to use it to kind of spearhead an attack. You can see our speed boost is up. So we're going to pop our speed boost here, briefly sit here in the smoke, and then we're going to go ahead and we're going to trying to decide if I want to continue to engage him or screw it, let's go get him. So here we are. We're going to launch a bit of a torpedo attack, you know, a head-on torpedo attack. We've got our smoke up. We've got speed boost on. We've got... Oop, there's a fire. Okay, so he shoots at me and misses because Wyoming's accuracy is all terrible. So we're going to continue to engage him, launch our first set of front torpedoes, and you can see here what I'm doing is basically when the Wyoming shoots, I'm turning in at him. Now we're broadside to a Nikolai. However, Mr. Imperator Nikolai is, I don't think he's really as much of a threat as some people want to make him out to be. But, yeah, okay, so Wyoming is shooting at us. Turned broadside there because I knew that there was no way at this range that I was going to be able to avoid them, and I double launched all of my my guns. Now you saw that the smoke screen popped up, and well, dang it, that stinks. My smoke screen ring popped up, but the Nikolai still had me detected for a solid second and a half there, if not 2 seconds. And this Wyoming looks like he's running away. I think we're going to run out of torpedoes. The torpedoes are going to run out of juice anyway, right? Well, as fate would have it, no. And the torpedoes, we're going to land 2 of them with a flood. That's important because you saw him burn his damage control party on the fires that he had not too before that. Up to 76,913 damage. And just racking up more and more damage as we go. This poor Wyoming is flooding out. And we get to sit here and watch the joy. So anyway, G-101, you can kind of see some of the tactics that are employed here. There was a lot of time spent ambushing from basically concealment or cover, either smoke or through the island. And the charge torping is quite excellent on these. It's just that in this case, the Wyoming was very, very good at shooting, and that means that somebody tried to steal my kill there. I'm all for kill securing, but there are far better targets for that Wyoming to have shot at. Anyway, the charge torping is quite good. The problem is when you run into a lot of enemies, especially at this tier where enemies are starting to get the hang of gunnery, they're starting to get the hang of their battleships, it can be very, very difficult to successfully pull that off with the concealment range of 6.5 kilometers. It's just a long range. And, I don't know. I mean, I think the ship is okay overall. Obviously, this battle shows it in a really good light. And it in truth, is a good battle. I think that the detection range is by far the biggest letdown of the ship, and the lack of torpedo range. And I get that balance is necessary, so having another V-25, except for a tier higher, is a little ridiculous. But by the same token, it would have been nice to have another tier to really enjoy that playstyle, because in a lot of ways, the higher tier German destroyers play exactly the same. Pretty good concealment, very spammy torpedoes, or they get much better guns as they go on. And so that helps out a lot too. So G-101, overall, I would say it's kind of a side grade. It doesn't really gain anything over the V-25. I think it gains a kilometer of range, but it loses a lot more in stealth firing range of those torpedoes. And so that's kind of annoying and frustrating, but I don't know. It's a pretty solid boat overall. So V-25 was excellent. I think that, taking this and taking it to the next extreme, which is, V-25 is a good boat. Side grading, even side grading it, the G-101 is still a fantastic ship for its tier. The constant up-tiering can be a little annoying, but... Oop. Free on at point-blank range to a Nikolai. 3 torpedoes are for sure going to hit. Or 5. Down he goes. Alright, so we ended up winning. So here's going to be the end battle screen. And you can see we finished it with 86,892 damage, 4 kills, 1,287 base XP. Friant got got a dev strike, and that helped him out there. Most of the damage done by torpedoes. There's a credits and XP screen. Overall, G-101 is still a fun ship to play, even though it's not really an upgrade over V-25. And if you're looking for a decent Tier 3 destroyer to pick up and play, G-101's not too shabby. It's alright. I like it. Anyway, I'm your Peacekeeper. Like, comment, subscribe, and thank you for watching.